away, we're talking Errol Spence against Terence Bud Crawford. So I've deliberately kept away from the hype from this fight. I really have. It's arguably the best fight we've had. I think this fight is even better than Pacquiao versus Mayweather, simply because both guys are really good, but they were at the latter stages of their career. One and two, Pacquiao had been beaten several times and even knocked out. None of these guys have been knocked out. Both guys are undefeated. Both guys are at the top of their game. Both guys are world champions. And I just think it's for me, a better fight. But at the moment, I've got to be honest with you, I really have. I don't see this being a 50-50 fight. Let me stop you all right there first before anyone starts jumping on my case. I like both guys. Now, people may not know me, like watching my channel for the first time. But Terence Crawford is one of those guys that when I was doing all those interviews back in the day, he was one of the guys I got to interview, and I got to do two 15-minute interviews with Terence Crawford, right? So I was interviewing Terence Crawford way before all these guys were now jumping on and talking about Terence Crawford. I knew then he was going to go on to be a great fighter. There's been a number of undisputed champions that I have interviewed before they went on to become undisputed champions, before the general mainstream media would pay any attention to them. So it's not a case of me hating Terence Crawford. But, there is a theory I'm working with. And I think that, you need to stick your neck on the line. I may have got it wrong. But there's a theory I'm sort of working with. Just like the theory I had about Fulton and Inoue. When two guys are fighting, and one guy's a notoriously big puncher, and the other guy has got skills, but it's not a big puncher. Usually what happens is the guy is the big puncher, world-class or elite puncher, is able to track down the guy who can't punch and gets him out of there. That's what I've noticed. And that's what I've seen. So, I know a lot of people are going to say a lot of things, but here's my take on this. Spence with the eye injury and Spence being inactive. Those are the two things that would concern me. But there are some guys in the world that can have time off and come back and look great. We saw him after the car accident, and he came out and looked great against Danny Garcia. He even looked better against Ugas. In fact, to tell you something about Spence, not Spence, how I feel. Look, guys, I'm not gonna. This conversation I'm having today is a very selfish one. I've got to be honest. I'm not engaging with any chat at the moment because I'm not going to let anybody engage me on this conversation. I do not want to be influenced. So please don't give me your predictions or your thoughts in this video. These are my personal thoughts. So I don't want to get influenced by anybody. So my theory is this about Spence and Crawford. As I say, Spence has come back in two fights now where he's been out of the ring for a while and come back. And against Ugas, now, before the Ugas fight, I just thought Errol Spence had put on workmanlike performances. I didn't think he did anything great. I thought his performances were workmanlike. But I warned everybody, when he fought Ugas, I said, this is the fight that he's going to turn it on against Ugas, and he'll end up stopping Ugas. Be like, no, Ugas could beat Spence, he's been out a while, blah, 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 blah. And for me, apart from that moment where he got the gumshoe knocked out his mouth or whatever he was doing, where he turned away, whatever, which is a bit odd. He did similar thing against Danny Garcia, and that is a concern. Other than that, he beat up Ugas, a guy who's physically very strong, a guy that was dangerous at the time and still dangerous, and a guy that I think could beat Keith Thurman, by the way, because Keith Thurman is nowhere near the guy he used to be, and I don't think Thurman's another conversation altogether. But let me stay with Spence. And Spence put on a real good performance about that night. Real good performance. Now, Here's my thought process. Terence Crawford, before this fight, and the amount of times myself and Derek James have spoke back and forth about this fight, way before this now, this fight has been announced. Long time ago, there's lots of interviews about this particular fight. Two of the things were a problem in making the fight happen. First of all, was the fact of the sort of opposition Crawford was fighting, and the fact he wasn't a big ticket seller. Those were the two major factors. James said it himself. You know, he leaves Top Rank. He becomes a free agent. But basically, the fight is now happening. So my thoughts on this fight are this, and just check the theory. I could be completely wrong, but I'm quite happy as a coach, not in boxing, but in another sport, I'm quite happy to put my theories out there and see them get tested. Spence is naturally the bigger guy, the natural welterweight, who's been fighting at welterweight for ages. And it'd be interesting to see how much he weighs coming into this fight. Right? In my opinion, Spence has fought the much better opposition. When he fought Kell Brook, when he fought Sean Porter, when he fought Ugas, the fights he's had, as difficult as they've been, he's fought better opposition and performed and won world titles. Danny Garcia, another tough fight. Mention that as well. And these guys are very good quality fighters, right? And when I look at Spence's resume, when I look at the guys he's fought and the time he fought them, then I go across the road and look at Mr. Crawford. Crawford has fought well, but the guys he's fought have been, when he could have fought an A-class fighter, or he's fought guys that like Kell Brook was, as far as I was concerned, retired, washed up. Khan was finished. Danny fought Green Machine, which I felt dropped him. Avanesian, good fight. Good fighter, but you wouldn't put those guys that I just mentioned there at the time they were fighting and say that they were better opposition than Ugas or Danny Garcia. And even the time he fought Sean Porter, the Sean Porter he fought was not the same Sean Porter that had fought Spence. So I think Spence has fought the better opposition and has come from more difficult moments than Terence Crawford. And I always said that you need to prepare yourself for adversity, go into big fights and do well in big fights and overcome adversity and win. When I look at Terence Crawford, since he's been to welterweight, he's fought nobody. Like, that you could say, yeah, he's going to this fight and I'm sure this guy can beat Terence Crawford. He's never been in a fight like that. Never. People said that Garcia was going to beat Spence. People thought that Ugas was going to beat Spence. People thought that Porter could have beaten Spence. There were people who were out there that were saying it. People always say, no, Spence was the overall favourite. He wasn't. He was expected to win, but he wasn't the overall favourite like that. I mean, if you're a Spence fan, then yeah, of course, you think your guy's invincible. You know, he can walk through a car crash and all that stuff. But I try and keep things realistic. And the realistic thing I've noticed is Errol Spence will knock Terence Crawford out if Terence Crawford continues to box the way that he does. You see, it's okay getting hit by the Green Machine and getting hit by Avanesian, you know, and getting hit by Gamboa in fights that you are maybe physically bigger and stronger. And those guys don't really have the will or the mental fortitude to see out a victory over you. Those guys are there to turn it up to get beat. Understand that. When I look at Errol Spence, I look at a guy that's defensively far more responsible than Crawford. Crawford is not defensively responsible. For all the skill set that Crawford has, he gets hit, and he gets hit a lot, and he gets hit a lot early. And you can't be making those type of mistakes against elite opposition. That's my thoughts. People say, well, Crawford's this and Crawford that. Crawford does well, from what I've noticed, in his back end of fights, second half of the fight, where he starts to take over. But early on in fights, guys have been able to get on to Crawford and land shots. And Crawford, for me, seems to be getting hit more and more and more. But the guys he's getting hit with, they don't have the skill level of an Errol Spence. They don't have the jab of an Errol Spence. They don't punch as hard as Errol Spence. They don't work the body as Errol Spence. They're not as physically strong as Errol Spence. And Crawford's always had those advantages, I noticed, in his fights. This is the first time Crawford's literally coming out and fighting a guy that people are like, yeah, this guy could beat him. In my opinion. So I don't, all the stuff that Crawford's done, he's done at a lower level. He's done it at B- level. Sorry. He's done it at B- level. And people are hoping that he can raise his game again to A level. Yeah, but that's for me, it's like a guy that fights for his face. And at a lower level, it's okay. But when you step up in class and you step up in quality and you do those same things and you repeat those same patterns, you get found out. And don't forget, the guy in the corner is Derek James. Don't forget that, when you look at all these other fighters that have been against Crawford, there's been nobody on the fly like a coach like Derek James, a Hall of Famer, a top quality coach. And those are factors for me which are key. Crawford makes a lot of mistakes. I'm not saying Spence doesn't, but Spence is defensively more responsible. Now, in the Ugas fight, I noticed Spence was overcommitting with the left hand. Sometimes he left himself, he was reaching in with the left hand. And sometimes he kind of overshot the shot and left himself open. Those are areas I think Crawford could counter on if Spence overcompensates to try and land them left hands. That's one thing I do notice. However, again, I don't have a lot of faith in Terence Crawford's chin. I really don't. And it's like, I look at those moments in those fights and I think to myself, right, the Avanesian fight, the Green Machine fight, the Gamboa fight. When Gamboa hit him, his legs stiffened. I mean, literally stiffened. But Gamboa didn't know it was too hurt himself to do anything about it. And I just look at those things. If I'm looking at those things, I'm sure Derek's looking at those things as well. So now, Crawford's going to be going in there against a guy who's, in my opinion, a lot physically stronger than him, who may come in at middleweight, maybe super middleweight on the night, who knows? And he's not just going to be physically strong, but skilled. And has been in fighting top level opposition. And for me, Crawford starts slow in fights. I don't, when I look at fighters, I don't make things up. I don't give fighters credit for things they don't do. Fighters fight in patterns. And when I look at Crawford, he's a guy that starts notoriously slow. And he Spence jumps in him early. Test that chin. Test that body. In the back end of fights where Crawford comes on strong, that's because the guys haven't put the work in early. And if Spence starts touching Crawford early, he stops Crawford. Because Crawford defensively just is not great. He gets hit way too often. And I remember something Ray Robinson said to me. Ray Robinson was a guy that beat Crawford in the amateurs. He said, Ray Robinson said to me, he was the last guy to beat Crawford in the amateurs. He said to me, The one thing about Crawford is, if you can get in his head, if you can make him angry and get him fighting angry, that's the best time. That's the best way to get Crawford. Now, Crawford could possibly, I hope Crawford proves me wrong, because then this theory that I have that not only a guy that's bigger and stronger, but will punish you for the mistakes you've made against lower opposition. You see, when you fight lower opposition, you get yourself into a certain pattern. You get yourself into a certain way of thinking that I can get away with this shit. I can get away doing this all the time until you meet a guy that checks you. And often the guy's checking you and you can't make that adjustment. You're okay to make adjustments on the fly with guys that are of B level. But when you find an A-class fighter and you're making those mistakes, often you're getting knocked out. You're getting knocked out. And Crawford, when he opens up, he leaves himself wide open to the body. And he gets hit with same shots over and over and over again. So that what I see there, unless he ties up on his defense, he's gonna have a problem. Saturday night, Sunday morning, he's gonna have a problem because he's gonna get hit with punches. A, punches he might not see, and B, punches that will knock him out. Because I don't rate Crawford's chin. I've been saying it for a long time. I just don't. But we'll see come Saturday night. When an A-class fighter is hitting you on the chin, I'm going to your body, and, we'll see how good your skill set really is. And whether the fights against Avanesian, the Green Machine, Kell Brook, and Amir Khan have kind of like left you in a false sense of security of what really is required of you. Because if you've been fighting, like I said, B-class opposition, like I said, there is, and you're doing what you're doing and winning, there is no need to make adjustments. There is no need to make changes. But when you've been in tough fights, there's need to change. And that's my take on it. Again, I'm happy to get proven wrong. But I'm also happy to stick my own boxing knowledge on the line and say, you know what? In all these years of watching boxing, a guy that's defensively irresponsible is a guy that gets punished at the highest level. And that is what I'm concerned of. First, Crawford. He's defensively irresponsible. Go back and look at tapes of him. And he's getting hit more now than early on in his career. He's getting hit more now. So, we'll see. We'll see. So, and the Green Machine dropped him early. I'm actually expecting in this fight an early knockdown. I am. But we'll see. All right, let me read what you guys have put down in the comment section now, so that see what people are saying now, because I've shared my opinion. Do you think Errol wins, huh? Yeah, I do. Inu is more skilled than Fullerton, though, and outboxing when getting him out of there. Silly boxing fans say box always beats a puncher. Complete nonsense. I don't know if Spence can outbox Bud. He doesn't need to outbox him. Just needs to knock him out. Don't need to outbox him. Because I don't think the fight goes the distance. Because I don't think Crawford sticks around when the going gets real tough. I don't think Crawford sticks around, personally. Good evening. I reckon clinical executed boxing display from Crawford. Well, he'll be doing something that he's never done before, which is performing against an A-class opponent. So we'll see. Good evening, Ingram and the chat. Crawford often engages in firefights, believing that when someone has hit him, he has to come right back to the detriment of defensive responsibility. Exciting exchange, but dangerous. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. When you get into habits like that mentally, it's all about mental mindset. If you think, yeah, I'm going to go in there, he does that, stupid, he does it at B level. But at A level, we'll see. We'll see if that doesn't be the undoing of him. Spence has to avoid early jab to the solar plexus by Crawford, and also not allow Crawford to use his long arms for wild shots and stop lunging in when exchanging. Crawford starts slow and then warms up. Danny Garcia is the same way. Spence's advantage is to start on Bud when he's cold. Catch him early. That's exactly what I'm saying. That's how I'm seeing it. And I think Spence is going to end up being too big, and too strong. That's what I think. And if it happens, then people say, "Oh well, Crawford was a small welterweight. He hadn't beaten anybody." This is what people say. He hadn't beaten anyone in the welterweight division. Yeah, he was too small. Who did he fight? That's what people say. If Spence loses, people say, "Oh well, the car accident wasn't the same fight after the eye injury. He took too much. Was out the ring for too long." So, you can't please everybody. So, these are my thoughts. I don't think the fight goes 12 rounds. Because I just think this fight's going to be about opportunity. Who presents the most opportunities? That's where I think this fight begins and ends. Who presents the opportunity, and then who takes the opportunity when it's presented. I think Errol rushing in on Crawford, playing to Crawford's hands. Well, I don't think Crawford has fought any A-class opposition or close to A-class opposition to actually see how good Crawford's skill set is. And if Avanesyan can land on you, if Kell Brook can land on you, if an old Sean Porter can land on you, if all these guys can land on you and they're not A-class opposition, I'm afraid to say, when an A-class person lands on you, it's good night. Doesn't matter about your skill set. I don't think it goes 12 rounds. If it does, I'm not confident in Cheatham and the other one to give a solid verdict. Bad pick for judges. No, I think they picked the judges on purpose, so there's a rematch. Take it from me, there's a rematch. All right. Thank you all so much for watching. I appreciate you, and I'm appreciating the views I'm getting back on the channel again. Don't forget to rate, subscribe, leave your comments. Leave your comments in the comment section. Yeah. I didn't want to be influenced early on in my decision making, but that's how I see it. Unless I see something different between now and Saturday night, I'm going Spence. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Much love to you all. And yeah, in the comment section also, let me know what videos you'd like me to talk about and do videos on, because sometimes I just don't know what to talk about, so I just don't say anything. So yeah, much love, take care, all the best.